Hi all, Simon Pimenta here. Yesterday I shared some tips for recovery from COVID, and one of the things I mentioned was the importance of vitamin D, or the relationship between vitamin D and outcomes in relation to COVID. And if you check out Dr. John Campbell, who is on YouTube, he's a retired medical doctor, no nonsense guy. He looks at the research. He talks a lot about the role of vitamin D. I was listening to a podcast in which Rich Roll was interviewing Dr. Michael Greger, who wrote a book on pandemics. I think in 2006. He updated it last year. No one really listened to him when he released that book, but they're listening to him now. And he's also very knowledgeable about nutrition. And he mentioned in that podcast that children who had severe COVID were given zinc, and the ones who were given zinc, the majority of them had good outcomes, and the ones who weren't given the zinc had bad outcomes, i.e. death. So looks like that's something to look at. He didn't cite the research, which I haven't been able to find yet, so if you do come across it, do let me know. One of the other things Evan Hirsch talked about in the conversation with Ari Whitten is the importance of dealing with stress. There's a book by Robert Sapolsky, who is a professor at Stanford University of neurology and biology. So he's a guy who knows what he's talking about. So in his book, he talks about why zebras don't get sick and why humans do. And he says that there are three types of stress. There's acute physical stress, chronic physical stress, and the third type is psychological and social stress. So an example of acute stress is getting a virus. Chronic stress is having an ongoing illness or being in a stressful environment. When I had mecfs, I knew it was a very real physical condition. And actually, when people mentioned that maybe I need to deal with my stress, I found that really upsetting. I did come to realise that psychological stress was a factor that had contributed to me getting sick. I was in a really stressful job and I was really stressed when I had mecfs. Now, if you're one of those super calm, relaxed people who manages to keep their cool in most situations, then obviously that's not going to apply to you. But if you recognise that you are stressed, then it's important to address that. I was chatting to a client who did develop long COVID, and he did say that the tools he'd learned to reduce stress, to increase the amount of calm he was experiencing, actually helped, and he has recovered. So it's just something to consider. If you have got COVID, is stress a factor? If it's not, great, but if it is, then it's important to reduce the stress. I remember a time a few years ago when I got really bad flu. It was the swine flu season. I don't know if I had swine flu because I never went to the doctor, but I was feeling really bad. I missed the whole of Christmas, spent all the time in bed. I was in bed for 10, 12 days and I wasn't feeling any better. And I did realise that actually I was really stressing. I was thinking, I need to get back to work. I can't work if I'm like this. And I thought, well, actually, I do know some techniques to calm my physiology. And I decided to just spend half an hour twice a day, just getting myself into a relaxed state and not allowing myself in that half an hour to be thinking about work or not being able to work, etc. And just doing that for a few days, I started to feel better and did actually start coming out of it. Whereas for 10, 12 days, I had seen no difference and I'd seen a lot of symptoms. And I think the fact that I was stressed was keeping me in that state. Research shows that stress makes it more likely to get diseases that make us sick. And research also shows that if we are stressed, it can hinder recovery. So I hope that's given you some food for thought. I'm sharing this information with love. Thanks for watching. Wishing you great health. Bye for now.